Today, I want to talk to you guys about cars. Specifically, how to figure out how much car you can actually afford to buy without sinking your monthly money situation. Because that happens. That is like a real thing that happens, and I want to make sure it doesn't happen to you guys. So let's get into it with 3 quick ways that you can do some basic math and figure out how much car you can actually afford to buy. Before we get into all of this though, I want to talk about why we're specifically talking about cars, because you guys know I am here for your lattes, I'm here for your avocado toast, but those are like $5 to $20 purchases, and while I never want to make anyone feel badly about a purchase that they're making, a car is a really big one. Like, it is one of those points where you can do really serious damage to your money if you are not thinking about it strategically. And there are definitely ways that you can get a car that you need on the budget that you need to stick to, but that's really why I wanted to talk about this today, is because it's such a big decision, and a lot of the time, based on the emails that I get, no one really hears about this. No one talks about realistic ways that you can figure out how much car you can afford. So there are 3 ways, and before I get into them, I actually do want to talk about 2 really quick disclaimers about how to use these guidelines in your personal finance life. Disclaimer number 1 applies to any hard and fast personal finance rule that you hear, whether it's, how much you should save for retirement or how much you should spend on a car. And that's that the personal finance, like hard and fast rules, are more like the pirate's code of money. They're really just good guidelines. So if you hear a number like 20% in this video and you're like, shit, like I have to do 30%, that's fine. You're much better off sticking close to the guideline but not following it exactly than going way out in left field and instead of spending 20%, spending 100%. That's really what the guideline is for. It's just a quick way to stop you from going completely off course. So that is how I want you to think about any of the hard numbers in this video and apply them to your financial life. And the second thing that I really want you to keep in mind as we go through these rules is that if you're sitting there and you have purchased a car already and you're thinking, wow, I am closer to 100% than 20%, that doesn't mean you're bad at money. Whenever you make a financial choice, like buying a car or buying a house, I genuinely think everyone does the best with the information that they had at the time. And if you just didn't have this information, you didn't have the guidelines, no one told you this, then yeah, you made the best decision that you could at the time with the information you had. That's great. You did it right. And I especially think you're doing it right because here you are looking for more information to do it right the next time, or do it more right the next time. I just don't want anyone to listen to this and think, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at money, I totally didn't follow these guidelines the last time I bought a car. With that said, it's time to get into the actual guidelines because I've just been throwing percentages around and that's not helpful. The first guideline that we're actually going to talk about is the 20% rule, which is why I've been saying 20% over and over and over again in this video so far. The 20% rule is pretty simple. Take your household's annual salary. So that's, the top line number that you get paid this much before taxes, before deductions, everything. And 20% of that number is the purchase price that you should look to spend on a car. And if you have more than one person in your household and you're buying 2 cars, that's still kind of the cap. So let's say you're a 2-person household that pulls in $100,000 a year altogether. You have $20,000 to spend on a car based on this rule. You get 1 car for $20,000, you could get 2 cars for $10,000, but that's the 20% rule in a nutshell. Your salary times 20%, that's the purchase price that you should aim for. And you can easily see how, yes, 30%, that's within the realm of reasonable, right? It's not following the rule exactly, but it is close to the rule. You can also really quickly see how buying a $20,000 car and buying a $100,000 car are going to be very different in how you handle them and what the overall impact is on your budget if you're making $100,000 a year. So that's the 20% rule in a nutshell. It's pretty simple, pretty easy to apply, and it's a good benchmark for when you're looking at the total purchase price of a car. In addition to the total purchase price, most of the time, you're not just gonna have $20,000 sitting around in liquid cash to be like, I'm paying for my car now, thanks. So if you're looking at a financing situation, there's another really good rule that can quickly give you a guideline for whether or not you can afford the financing that you're looking at. And so we've talked about purchase price, but there is a really handy rule of thumb for if you're taking out a car loan, and it's also fairly, I don't want to say restrictive, but it's a good benchmark because it's like you're aiming high, and it's that you should aim to finance a car over no more than 3 years. And I know that that sounds really aggressive when you could easily get a car loan that spans 8 years these days, but there are a couple reasons it makes sense. One, if you're financing a car over 3 years, your payments are going to be higher. You're going to be paying off the car a little bit more quickly, and you're going to be paying less in overall interest. Keeping it short keeps things really reasonable in terms of like responsible use of financing. The second thing is that you do have to be careful about how much you're spending on the car. If you're disregarding the 20% rule entirely and you go over that, if you're still sticking to paying it off in 3 years, you really have to be careful about how much you're going to be spending every month. And that on its own would keep you within a reasonable price range for how much you can afford. If you're trying to pay off, a $100,000 car in 3 years, that is going to be pretty tight if you're only making $100,000. I mean, no, that's just going to be tight. That's just the way of the world. Again, this is a guideline. If you go to 4 years, that's still within the realm of this guideline. This is really to prevent you from getting into a situation where you have an 8-year car loan and something happens at like year 2, you need to upgrade to a bigger car because your family is expanding, or you are moving and you need to sell your car. And because you're paying it off over such a long period, the car has depreciated faster than your loan payoff. So if you sold that car right now, you would literally need to pay more money to get out of your loan because the car loan is worth more than the value of your car. You want to avoid that, and that's what the 3-year rule helps you do. It's just another way that you can think about how you can afford the car, especially helpful if you're looking at getting financing for your car. The third and final rule is actually one of the more flexible ways you can look at this because it really depends on your situation, how you're managing your money, and how much money you have to play with in your budget. And it's really, really simple. Don't spend more on your car payment than you can afford to save for retirement every month. That's it. That's the whole thing. If you are in a situation where your housing costs are super low, your car is like really what you love to spend your money on, and you're willing to throw a bunch of your discretionary income towards it, fantastic. Like, disregard the other rules. If that's your priority, that's your priority, but it can never become more of a priority than saving for your future self and making sure that you're going to be a financially stable human even if you stop working, aka retire. That's literally it. It's the most flexible of them, but it also makes sure that yes, you're allowing yourself to spend, whatever you want on your car, as long as you're still prioritizing taking care of yourself and investing for your future. It's really easy. Don't spend more on financing a depreciating asset than you spend on saving and investing for your future self. Done. You are doing money right. So honestly, that's it. You've got your 20% rule to not spend more than 20% of your annual income on the purchase price of a car. You've got the 3-year rule, so don't finance a car for more than 3 years if you can help it. And the retirement rule, don't spend more on a car payment than you can afford to save for retirement every month. Those are 3 really great guidelines that you can use when you're looking at how much car you can afford. And I think they're pretty flexible, but they're also just guidelines. Please remember that if you're close to those but not hitting them exactly, it doesn't mean you're bad at money. You're making the best choices with the information that you have available at the time. That's it for today. If you liked this video and you found it helpful, I would love if you gave it a thumbs up and liked the video. And if you're not subscribed already, I would also love it if you subscribe to my channel. I hope you have an awesome day and happy car shopping, I assume.